She has to fly.
Those are figure skates, pal.
He's so good, he's going to make you cry.
Topic.
Hello and welcome to the Untitled Gen X podcast.
A podcast sometimes hosted by two childhood best friends, always dedicated to the pop culture that raised us.
I'm Cate, a writer and a midwife.
And I'm Lori, a writer and a pop culture lover.
Today we're here to warm your cold, cold hearts as we revisit The Cutting Edge, a film about ice princesses, Pamchenkos, and of course, topics.
But before we get into this perfectly 90s adaptation of The Taming of the Shrew, I'd like to remind you that we have a Patreon. For just $5 or more a month, you'll get access to a bunch of exclusive episodes and so much more. But most importantly, your money goes to supporting the pod. So visit patreon.com/the Untitled Gen X podcast. But enough about all that. The Cutting Edge, Cate. Oh, I love this movie so much. What is your history with this iconic classic?
I also love it so much. In fact, I think many years ago, you made a post on Facebook and were like, The Cutting Edge is on Netflix. And then I had a really horrible day at work, like just a long, stressful, horrible day at work. And I came home and I saw that post and I was like, everything's going to be fine. So I watched it and it just made my whole life better. Remind me what year it came out?
It came out in 92.
Oh, I was quite old.
Yes, we were in high school. I did have the VHS. So I'm guessing that I probably forced you to watch it often because it's just so good. It just makes you feel good. It's a comfort classic.
It's so good. It's just fun and delightful. And more often than it should probably go through my mind is that part where they're like, I think she got caught up in his lederhosen.
Classic.
I really loved this movie, and it was so fun to go back and revisit it.
It is a great film to just throw on, maybe while you're cleaning, doing other things, paying bills, budgeting, or if you just don't feel good, or you had a bad day, or you're sad. It feels like a cozy blanket, and it's fun to look at. And who doesn't love ice skating? And who doesn't love, I hate him so much that I secretly love him. And
Right.
it's all good.
It is good. It's great. And I forgot until your intro that it is an adaptation of The Taming of the Shrew.
100%. The screenplay was written by Tony Gilroy. He's written a lot of cool stuff. He wrote The Devil's Advocate. He co-wrote one of your favorite films, Armageddon. Cate was obsessed with Armageddon.
I still love it. It still makes me happy to watch it. I mean, it's not like a great cinematic historical piece, but
Shut your mouth. Yes, it is.
Liv Tyler, Ben Affleck, Bruce Willis. Oh, who's the guy who goes crazy on the ship?
I mean, I've seen it once to your 2,000 times.
Oh, really? Oh, gosh. It's so good. I can't think of his name. He's a really good actor.
Is that Steve Buscemi?
Yes.
God, love him.
What is not to love?
I know. We should cover it someday.
We should. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he also wrote like all the Bourne movies.
Oh, yeah.
Identity, Supremacy, Ultimatum, Legacy. Yeah. So this guy, he's a great writer. The writing was fun. And the chemistry between the characters, it was fantastic. This was directed by Michael Paul Glaser, Starsky from Starsky and Hutch, the OG.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, I completely forgot that show existed until this very moment.
Yeah. And so, like you asked, the film was released in 92, March 27th, 92, and it made so many dollars. It grossed over $25 million domestically.
How much did it cost to make? Did you find
I could not find it. In fact, there is so little written about this movie, and I don't know why. There has to be a rich history here. There's not that much.
Huh. That's so interesting.
The most I found on it, honestly, was this really fantastic interview with D.B. Sweeney talking about The Cutting Edge like 30 years later or whatever, like his memories of it. And he is still just as delightful today. But yeah, there wasn't a lot. I mean, I found some stuff. I did some digging. I'm a journalist.
Right, right.
All right, let's get into the story.
Okay.
So we open on the 1988 Winter Olympic Games in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And hockey player Doug Dorsey, played by our beloved DB Sweeney, he wakes up in a panic at like 1 p.m. because he slept with some stranger woman last night, right? She's in his bed and he wakes up late. He's like, oh shit, I'm late for my Olympic hockey game.
Right. I mean, I think she is also an Olympic athlete. Maybe. It seems like they're in the Olympic Village.
Yes.
Is she German? Because she said, I asked you if you wanted an alarm. And he said, right. And I said 9. And she's like, right, 9. Because that means
I didn't
no.
get that whole, oh my God, I'm so dumb. I did not get that. For what it's worth, I have heard that there is a lot of sex happening in the Olympic Village.
It surprises me not at all, because you have all these young, very fit athletes
stressed
all
out
in one
athletes.
place together. I would hope that, because I feel like they always say you shouldn't expend the energy on sex before some big event. So hopefully they wait till their event is over. But yeah, I imagine.
Yeah, it's the most stressful summer camp ever.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine?
So, okay, meanwhile, Kate Mosley, played by Moira Kelly, she is also at the Olympic Games and she's practicing her figure skating routine with her partner. Kate's coach is utterly unimpressed. She blames both her coach, your coaching style sucks, and I have a horrible partner, because nothing is ever Kate's fault. Do you notice?
Oh, right. No, it's never her fault because she is the privileged princess.
Absolutely.
But in fairness to her, her coach is a jerk. He's mean.
I mean, coaches are mean.
No, they don't have to be. But I love that scene because he says to her the only thing I want to see is your ass in the air. And she turns around, skates away, and as she's skating away, she lifts the skirt on her little outfit, so he sees her ass skating away, which
yes,
I feel good for you, Kate.
So Doug's super late. He's like, oh shit. And as he's running to the ice rink, Kate's rich dad with his skinny little mustache tells her, you need to go apologize to your coach. She refuses. She storms off and she's making her way through the back hallways, whatever. Doug is running. They crash in the hallway. And these two, they exchange some snarky quips. Doug just leaves her all splat on the ground before rushing to the ice because, girl, he's late.
He's got a game. They're already doing the national anthem. Got to be there.
So let's talk casting for Kate. The role came down to Moira Kelly and Gabrielle Anwar. Do you remember Gabrielle Anwar? She's the one in Scent of a Woman.
Oh, wait, isn't she the one?
Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken. Oh my God. We have to cover it. I love that.
Wild Hearts Can't Be Broken. She had to dive with the horse off of the thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. So it came down to those two. But as we know, Moira nabbed the role, and DB Sweeney said of her, we're both from Long Island, New York. So it felt like I was riding on the school bus with one of the girls I went to high school with, in the best possible way. So they connected early on. They had a true affinity for each other. They still both speak about each other in the highest regard. And yeah, they were just sort of besties on this film. And I love knowing that backstory.
Yeah. And I think their connection and chemistry and feelings about each other are so important because it's a delicate thing to make it believable that these people hate each other so much and then fall in love, right?
Oh, yeah, because most definitely.
If the chemistry is not right, you're just yeah, that didn't happen.
Exactly. And maybe what it came down to is they just had better chemistry than he did with Gabrielle Anwar. Right. So I couldn't find much about the casting for Doug's character, but I do know that DB Sweeney was interested in the role from the very beginning because he thought the script was so smart. He loved that it was wholesome, that, your whole family could watch it, your grandma.
Right.
your kids, you can all watch it
You're not
and
going to have any
enjoy it.
awkward moments during a sex scene where you're like,
No.
everybody will stare at the screen, stare at the screen.
Right. Like you might have to define orgasmic for the younger crowd, but it was fun. And he loved the power play between the characters. So that was what really turned him on.
Well, and I wondered too, like, how important was it that the actors, obviously there were stunt skaters and professional skaters doing a lot of it, but how important was it that the actors at least felt comfortable on the ice?
Yes, actually, DB Sweeney had never ice skated before this film.
Oh.
He said, I didn't play hockey, but the cutting edge changed my life. They hired me knowing I couldn't skate, but there were 3 months until we started filming. And they said, okay, we're going to hire a hockey coach if you feel like skating. I think they probably thought I'd do it a couple of days a week. I skated every day for 3 months. So he did a lot of his own skating. Meanwhile, Myra had to rely on stunt doubles almost exclusively, even just for basic skating sequences, because she fractured her leg on the very first week of filming.
Oh, no.
So her brother in real life played hockey and she didn't know how to skate. So he took her to Rockefeller Center to kind of like teach her how to skate. And when she met, I don't know if it was the director or the casting director, to like kind of show what she could do prior to casting, her brother was there and they were kind of fighting on the ice. And they were like, oh, I like this dynamic. Like she's a spitfire. She's got a lot of spirit and moxie, and look at her on the ice and she's, giving it right back. And that was what they needed in that character. So
Right.
yeah, but this is a really fun fact. She was actually cast as Kit Keller, Gina Davis's kid sister in A League of Their Own.
Oh.
Okay. But she had to back out of that role because of this injury from the cutting edge. So that part went to Lori Petty. It is interesting because she doesn't look like Gina Davis, like at all.
No, I can't. I mean, not that like Lori Petty does either, but like,
Right.
I feel like Lori Petty was so charming in that role.
Oh, I know.
And it's so hard for me to picture anyone else doing it. I mean, I'm sure she would have been good in her own right, and I just can't picture it. But like Lori Petty's performance in that was just very endearing.
Yeah, so that was the part that never was, all because of the cutting edge.
Right. Man. Yeah, it's funny because in my head, I'm like, did they consider Paul Rudd for the male lead? Because I feel like it could have easily gone that way, but I don't.
I think he's too young.
Well, and he's so nice, right? Like he's so like, it would be hard for me to like believe the like mean parts of him in there, So DB Sweeney was a good cast for that. What has he done since then?
He did a movie in 2006. I think it was called 2 Tickets to Paradise, actually with Myra Kelly. They reunited on screen, that he like directed and co-wrote, or co-directed and co-wrote. He's done some stuff.
He's like here and there. Yeah.
And he was so good in this role. Like he had that edge, that sort of blue collar, rough around the edges edge that you needed in this character. It just felt so authentic. I don't know if that's authentic to him, but I believed it.
Yeah. Like he had the sweetness and the edge that was necessary for that character to be able to pull it off. Because he wasn't a jerk, but he also like wasn't going to take shit from her,
No, he dished it back. This
Yeah.
is a quality I like in my men.
Oh, me as well. Yeah. I like, it's funny because
in my men, I have so many.
In your men. Yeah. When I am like meeting people through online dating, which if you don't have to do that, go give a big hug to your partner. People will often ask like, oh, what is it that you're looking for? And I'm like, I need somebody with, I'm like, just this, like an edge, a little bit of an edge.
Like a cutting edge.
I can't, and like maybe a toe pick. But I'm like, I can't really explain it, and I don't know it until I see it. But if it's not there, it will never work.
Right. I just love him in this role. And so what we find out is Doug is a junior from Michigan State competing in the Olympics here. He's a phenom, and a bunch of NHL teams want to recruit him. So his star is on the rise, and we get a cool, intense hockey sequence, and Doug scores a goal against Germany, but he's then knocked so hard against the wall purposefully by an opposing player, that his helmet flies off. This is never a good sign. We never want a helmet to fly off.
Brains are very sensitive, especially when they're hit from the side. They are not meant to take side impact. Look at me being all nursey. It just isn't like, it doesn't do well and it causes damage, which is exactly what happens to poor Doug.
Yes. And meanwhile, at Cate's Olympic performance, she gets all tangled up in her partner. He drops her on the ice. And with that, her hopes for Olympic gold are destroyed. We're now with Doug at the doctor's, where he learns he has lost 18 degrees of peripheral vision in his right eye because of this injury. And his doc is basically like, you're not going to be a professional hockey player.
You've got a blind side and there's no Sandra Bullock.
Yeah. No, all we have is a Myra Kelly. Yeah. So it's really sad. He's just devastated. It's a sad scene. He's just like, but there's like a surgery, like there's like a thing, like surely somebody can fix this. But yeah, no.
But no.
It's now 2 years later and Doug is working construction and he heads into his brother's bar, which is called Dorsey's Penalty Box. And I love that. It's so great. And his brother is like, hey, man, I need you to like bartend, lend a hand here. And Doug refuses because he's on his way to play in an amateur hockey league. His brother's super pissed about this. And he told him, you know what? You got a letter from the Detroit Red Wings. You know, it's a rejection letter, Doug. Like, don't be stupid. It's just like all the other ones that came before it. And things get heated between them. And his brother basically tells him, like, you have got to let go of this dream. It's not going to happen for you.
You're over, Doug.
I got a little nursey, even though I'm not a nurse, and I looked up some stats. According to the National Institute of Health, the link between depression and sports-related injury is significant, and 40 to 50% of college athletes sustain at least one athletic injury.
Yeah. Think about the things they're having their body do and or the things that are like flying at their bodies,
In a study of more than 900 NCAA athletes, they found that 33% of athletes with an injury and 27% of uninjured athletes could be considered depressed.
Yeah. I mean, imagine like in order to be at the top of your sport, right? It requires a certain amount of like dedication and probably perfectionism to some degree and like really high expectations of yourself. So
Absolutely.
That alone, right? That alone and like whether you're successful or not successful in terms of winning, that's just a lot of pressure. And actually watching this movie through the lens of like recent Olympic events was really interesting. I was thinking about Simone Biles, right? And how she chose to step back.
She chose her mental health.
Yeah. And I was thinking about that and that at the time this movie was out, that was just unthinkable. Like no one would do that. And I think that that was one of the like bravest things that a person could have done. And right, like that's when you know who you are, is when the stakes are really high and you make a decision that isn't maybe in line with what people want you to do, but in line with what is best for yourself. Like that's super powerful.
To get to this level, you have to devote so much of your life into this one thing. And so often everything around it falls apart. Like you don't have maybe the relationships that you need to support you if this ever ends. You maybe don't have the education. You maybe don't have, you sacrifice so much to be able to give everything to this one thing. Once that one thing goes away or you can't do it anymore, God, you lose those skills, you lose that dream. Like what is left? Not a lot.
Yeah, having not been a serious athlete myself.
Same.
I can't quite imagine it. But yeah, if you have something that you love that you suddenly can't do, or that just has a natural expiration date, right? Like people's bodies are not going to be able to perform at that level
forever.
As they get older for most sports. So to be sort of at he was at the beginning of his career. He was in college. He was being recruited for professional teams and then to be taken out right in the middle of it. And he loved it. Like, that's the thing. Like, when you look at these two characters, like, you don't get the sense that she loves being on the ice.
No, she doesn't.
So her whole situation is really different, but he just loves it, which is, I think, why he agrees to come and do this thing that's like so out of character for a hockey player to
So out
go
of
and
scope.
do figure
Yes.
skating.
So we cut to Cate. She's just generally unimpressed with her latest partner. Her new skating coach, Anton Pamchenko, tells her dad that she really should have been a singles skater because this is her 8th partner in 2 years. She's notoriously picky, stubborn, unsatisfied, and people call her a bitch because she is. So the coach tells her dad, like, there's literally no one else for her to try. We have tried everybody.
Right. Like the coach says, we're at the bottom of the barrel. And he says, then find another barrel.
Yep.
And so he does.
And so he does. He approaches Dorsey at his work. You know, he's like on a construction site.
Oh my gosh, the ergonomics of that scene. He's like literally like hanging from a rafter to like put in a nail. I'm like, that you can't keep doing that. You're going to ruin your body.
So the coach approaches him and is like, well, I've got this like opportunity for you. And he dangles these skates and Doug's like, those are figure skates, pal. So Doug agrees, okay, I'll go and try this out, whatever. And when the driver pulls up to Cate's mansion, he is totally wowed. But the coolest thing ever about this mansion is that it literally houses an ice rink. I mean, with fresh ice every single day just for her. I mean, that is some serious money.
Oh, yeah. I can't even imagine to have like your own Zamboni. Imagine the electricity to keep that place frozen, especially in the summer.
God. So we see Cate skating. She's looking like a vision, an angelic vision in all white. And Doug shows up and she's totally annoyed that he's there to try out. I mean, they can't even shake hands without her criticizing how rough his hands are. I mean, the man works construction.
I was going to say, like, he just has so many great responses to like the cranky things that she says. And he's like, well, I know they're a little rough, but I've never had any complaints.
Like, she's just such a snotty little brat. She asks her coach, what is this? The final stages of Ukrainian alcohol psychosis? Like, you are insane. She doesn't even want to entertain a tryout. She's like, get him out of my building. And Doug's like, I don't need this bullshit. The coach just gets pissed at both of them and he barks at them. He's like, shut up. Let's get started. On the ice, Doug asks, what's this thing on the front of the skate? And they're like, that's called a toe pick. And he's like, all right, I don't know what's up with that. Yeah. These two are on the ice. They're exchanging lively insults. And Doug is having a hard time keeping up with Cate. He falls and Cate laughs. Toe pick.
Toe pick.
It's time for him to lift her up. And he does. And when the coach is like, okay, put her down, he just drops her deliberately on her butt. I'm like, ow, tailbone. But like, he's dishing it back. She's being a bitch. And he's like, I'm not going to stand for it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think she's very used to having consequences for her actions.
Clearly not.
So, or having anybody like stand up to her. Because, like, I mean, her dad, like, she doesn't really stand up to her dad, right? And then in turn, no one stands up to her.
Well, she definitely needs to be the one in control. She usually is. She gets to call the shots with her partners and what's done and what isn't and who coaches her and who doesn't. So, you know, Cate's rich daddy calls Doug into his office and tells him, look, it's not going to work out. Like, you should feel honored that you were even called. You know, I'm going to write you a check for your time. And Doug's like, I was not given a fair shot here. Cate is difficult. And her dad is like, yeah, well, she grew up without a mom and, you know, she's competitive. So like, you know, and her dad wants him to know it's not personal. He begins sorting through all of these like really impressive figure skating partner profiles, you know, that didn't work out. One by one, he crumbles them up.
Right.
Trying to throw them into a basket. It's not working. And then Doug takes his check, crumbles it up.
Actually, he doesn't do it with the check first. He does it with one of the profiles. The dad hands him the profiles and he crumples it up and he throws it without looking. And the dad goes, lucky shot. So he grabs another profile and does the same thing and makes it again. And the dad's like, And then he holds up the check and says, double or nothing. And the dad's like, all right, you got a deal. And that's when he crumples up the check and throws. Which, I mean, honestly, that was a risk because I'm sure that was a generous check, whatever that check was.
I was pausing it. I was trying to see. I really wanted to know how much that check was for. They have a lot of money.
Yeah. So the idea that he might get nothing if he couldn't make it work out. But it's also good because it gives us like a reason that he maybe is willing to put up with so much of the nonsense that he has to deal with.
Exactly. And so Cate is all too quick to be outside the door waiting to say goodbye and like, thanks for coming. And
right, like, sorry, it didn't work out.
And this is when her dad tells her, you're all out of options. And we've reached the end of the line. Basically, Doug is staying. And she's just,
the look on her face is
classic.
So good. Like, she's just like, but what, huh?
Yeah. So we're now at practice and Cate doesn't actually think Doug can skate at all. To which he tells her in another classic Doug Dorsey line, there's only two things I do really well.
And skating's the other one.
So good. Love it.
And there's definitely like a lot of play in their relationship between one, I think it comes off as sort of that she's prudish, but I think the truth is she's just very naive to a lot of the ways of the world. I mean, she has a boyfriend. Is he in Europe doing something?
Yeah, he's in London. He's a Harvard MBA. He works for her rich daddy.
And Doug says, yeah, I bet you look pretty good from a few thousand miles away. So the fact that he's like so worldly in many ways and she's so sheltered and naive is definitely a play. So like he says stuff like that. And I think one of the things that she does really well as an actress is that acting isn't just saying your lines, right? It's reacting to what's happening. And she does a really good job of that. And you really do see the shock, but then she doesn't want to look shocked. And so that all comes across just in her expression. So
yeah, I thought so too. There were so many times her face was just, it was perfection. Like you saw it all. She didn't have to say a word. You got the whole gist of the range of emotions she was feeling in that moment, just from the look on her face. So Cate basically just hates everything about Doug, right? Like he breathes with his mouth open. His hands are rough. He can't skate. He sucks. This is when we get the very, very fun toe pick montage. It's a classic.
Toe pick.
Doug is being clumsy on the ice and Cate is just this like graceful swan. Doug is just taking a beating.
Yeah.
In one scene, we see like ice packs strapped all over his poor body.
Like they're like tucked into like his boxers. And like he stands up from the table and it's just like, which I mean, can you imagine how unpleasant it is to fall on like the grass, right? Or even like concrete, but like ice is hard. It's cold. It's very unforgiving. It's not easy to get up from.
He's tired of looking like a dumbass in front of Cate. Cate always has the upper hand. And this is when he challenges her to a game of hockey. She's like, how hard can hockey possibly be?
Right.
We get a hockey montage. This film is full of montages, you know, and this is the missing element of films today. I need more montages in my romantic movies.
Are so great. And like they have the workout montage and it starts out with them running. And I'm like, every time I see a good running montage in a movie, I'm like, I should take up running, which, but true story. Because I have in my life, believe it or not, done a few sprint triathlons. And I was very bad the first time I started. And I went to the gym a lot to train. And that's how I got through it, is I would imagine that this was a part in the montage. This was the beginning of the montage. And then you were going to string all these parts together and have me at the finish line of the triathlon. And that is what happened, friends.
Set to some really, really awesome, cheesy music.
I had a playlist that was like Eye of the Tiger.
Sure.
And the fight song.
Oh, yes.
And then, interestingly, but very inspiring, that Eminem song about
Lose Yourself. Hell yeah.
Yes.
I love the challenge montages because in the end, we did this thing. I don't know. It just feels so good.
The montage, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I feel it is an underused technique in modern film.
Yes. If only we could do them in real life. But they're playing Hockey, Kate's not good at it. For the first time in her
She's
life,
terrible.
Kate is not good at something. She does not know what to do with this information. She's just getting frustrated. She's getting more irritable. Meanwhile, Doug is just egging her on. I mean, he is loving this so much. She can't score a single goal. And there's a point where she gets so upset. She lets out this raging scream as she hits the puck as hard as she possibly can. And in the very next frame, we see Doug being wheeled away on a gurney at the hospital.
Because the puck hit him in the face.
And she's telling her coach as they're in the waiting room that it wasn't her fault. Because you know what? It never is. It's not my fault.
Nothing is Kate's fault.
And he tells her, you're just scared. And she's like, why would I be scared? Because Doug's your new partner.
So like now you're scared because you actually have somebody who can like potentially do this. Oh, the wise coach.
And this, Kate, is when we get the workout montage.
Mm.
There's running, there's weightlifting, they're doing ballet,
there's
doing
ab
aerobics.
work. There's
sweat. There is so much
there's a lot
good
of
sweat. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny when he's trying to do like whatever that ballet thing is. And I'm like, this would be me.
It's so good. She looks so good and graceful. And he's like this big beast of a man. And he's like,
right. He's like, you want me to put my foot on this bar and reach my toes?
I'm like, what? Yeah.
My dream as a child was to have like a mirror and a ballet bar in my house.
Oh my God. I know.
Right? Like
Yes.
I didn't ever take ballet, but like it was my dream.
It's just so graceful.
Right.
Yeah.
And like maybe had I taken ballet, I would be a graceful person. But instead I played softball. So
I'm just a hot mess. Like in life, I fall a lot. There was this one time my husband and I were walking out of a restaurant and it's just the two of us and we're talking and he goes to say something to me. He turns his head and I'm not there. And he's like, wait, and he's looking around for me.
you're on the ground.
I had fallen into a bush. The most silent fall. It was so weird. I didn't make a noise. I didn't make a noise when I hit the ground. I didn't scream. Nothing. I had this silent fall.
Just like, boop.
And he's like, oh my God, where'd you go? And I'm like lying there trying to figure out what just happened. I still don't know how that happened. But yeah, I swear. Do you remember I fell during a performance in high school?
Wait, did you fall off the back of the stage?
Okay, I did that too. So
onto your lady parts?
Okay. This story, I don't know if I've ever told it publicly. It's one of my secret shames. Thanks for sharing it.
Be brave. I mean, you can edit it out, but be brave.
So there are two stories. One, we were doing a production of Story Theater and I fell on stage hard in front of an audience. That was really embarrassing. But the other story is one time I was working in play production and I was standing on the outside of the stage, right? There wasn't a lot of flooring behind me. We were up on rafters.
Risers. Yeah. So like our stage was it was the cafeteria and we put risers up and then we built the stage on top of the risers.
Right.
So we had steps that went up to the stage, but there was plenty of space to just fall off because, you know, we were Gen X. We didn't have safety railings.
No, there was no safety anything. So I was standing on the edge of the stage doing something and I went to take a step backwards, but there was nothing behind me. Well, that's not true. There was no floor behind me. There was a pile of 2x4s on the ground, however many feet below me. How high was this stage?
I don't. Do you think like 3 feet, maybe?
Oh, it felt much higher than that. Anyway, I fell off the stage onto a pile of 2x4s backwards, and it scared me so much. I was so embarrassed that I just started laughing and crying simultaneously, lying on my back on a pile of 2x4s. Well, yeah, it hurt, but like there was adrenaline and shock and all of that going on. Girlfriend, the next day, my whole crotch area hurt so bad. I was like, I am so sore. I took a good look at myself. Everything was everything was bruised and swollen. Everything. All my lady bits.
It's not really an easy place to get ice. Like,
I told my friends. I did not tell my mom.
You're like, I'm not going to the doctor.
I'm not going to the doctor. Like, no.
I don't care if my pelvis is broken.
Girl, I have birthed 2 children. And the aftermath of that was nothing like the spill off the stage. That was the worst.
Yeah.
On that happy note, Cate and Doug began to find their groove. He is able to keep up. He's so excited. The coach is so excited. We are on our way.
Olympics, here we come.
Yes. And in the next scene, Doug walks in on Cate, like after a shower.
So he knocks. And
he like knocks and opens.
And opens, right? Which, as any good healthcare provider can tell you, you do the assertive double knock and then you wait.
Yes.
To make sure nobody's like, hold on, I'm not done yet.
Right. But he doesn't do that. He just opens the door.
But yeah, don't just walk in.
No. And she screams at him, get out. And he doesn't.
Right. He's like, there's nothing here that I'm not very familiar with.
I've seen it all before. I
don't understand that logic because, like, as a nurse, I see all sorts of different parts of people's bodies, but like it's not the issue. It's not that you've never seen it before. It's that it's you as an individual. Yeah, like, this is my body and I don't want you to see it naked. I don't care if you've seen 500 other bodies naked.
That's right. This is my body. This isn't just, we're not just talking about anatomy here. This is the anatomy that belongs to me. You haven't seen my anatomy.
Like, there's nothing here I haven't seen before. What? Yes, there is. You have not seen me.
So instead of leaving, he gives her a Christmas present. It's a game sweater worn by a professional hockey player, Bobby Hull. And Doug has owned this game sweater for 15 years. He has cherished it. She really doesn't understand the significance of the gift, and he feels stupid. He goes to take it back. She's like, no, I want it. And he's like, no. And they're playing like tug of war with this thing. And finally he lets go of it. And she's like, oh, okay.
I don't think that you can blame her for not, it's like, if I gave you like a Favre jersey, would that mean anything to you?
No, it wouldn't. I mean, I know who he is, but like, he's giving her this thing that means something to him. She then gives him a gift. It's a copy of Great Expectations. And I'm like, womp, womp. They never explain the significance of the book. I mean, like, is he supposed to be the poor orphan Pip? And she's like Estella, beautiful and cold.
I mean, maybe, but they have that whole conversation because, she's sitting reading.
Right. Like, do you even know how to read?
Right. Do you read? But yeah, I mean, you make a good point.
At Cate's dad's fancy New Year's Eve party, Cate and Doug share a moment in her father's office. Doug offers Cate a drink, but she tells him, no, I've never had a drink in my entire life.
Right. I don't drink.
So Cate then introduces Doug to her fiancé, Hale Forrester, which is the most rich person name ever. And,
right.
And Doug doesn't shake his hand. He does that dick guy move.
Right. Like that weird, like possessive,
yes.
Like, you're my competition, which is weird because like, he's not. He's her fiance. Her fiance.
Yes, no, I know. But it's like, it's such a guy move. You see this happen like in real life all the time. Oh, yeah. Women don't do that. I'm sure it happens, but like generally speaking,
women do it differently. When women are like threatened by another woman, it's not as direct, right? Like it's not like a direct.
No, I mean it's much scarier and far more dangerous when women do it.
Right. It's like the sneak attack. It's like the lioness waiting in the tall grass,
For real.
Versus like the two like buffalo just like knocking horns.
Speaking of lioness, did you know that Moira Kelly is the voice of Nala in The Lion King?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It's like I knew it and then I forgot it. She has a great voice.
She does. Yeah, she has a nice voice.
Hale is being like pretty nice to Doug.
But also, if you consider like the power differential, what does Hale have to be threatened by, right? He's like in with her and her dad.
Exactly.
This guy's just like a hockey player from the Midwest. Like, okay, I can afford to be gracious with you. Little did he know.
You know, Hale does tell Doug, though, that like the way you've been acting has really been bothering Cate lately, and I don't like to see her upset. Doug is like, well, then I suggest you get a blindfold. Like, Cate is always pissed off.
Like, it's going to be a long life, friend.
Good luck to you. Cate is very much glued to Hale at this party, but she keeps looking over at Doug with these jealous eyes as he, you know, engages in general merriment with the women at the party. I mean, he's cute and charming, and I mean, he's getting attention.
Of course. Yeah. And he owes her nothing. So
he owes her nothing. It's true. So we're now at the New Year's Eve countdown. And everyone kisses each other on the lips, which is weird. That's not a thing that happens. You like kiss your person
Certainly
at
not
midnight.
Now in a post-COVID world.
And soon they are face to face.
With sparklers.
With sparklers behind them. It's just so perfect.
The best scene.
They have a weird little peck on the cheek with each other. It's awkward as hell.
Yeah, like they have that like tension of like, we're going to kiss because like that's what we're doing. But like, oh, there's so much more behind it than just a little social peck.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The next morning, Doug is packing up to go home for the weekend, and Cate arrives to his room. She notices a picture of him where he's smelling the ice. I love that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he explained like, oh, I love the smell of fresh ice. And someone took a picture of me. It became a whole thing. And she tells him, oh, I never really thought about it before. And he's like, I'm not surprised. And she defensively asks, what's that supposed to mean? And he's like, I think you would skate even better if you just allowed yourself to enjoy it a little bit. She's totally insulted by this. And they argue before she gives him a videotape of their greatest hits in rehearsal for him to show his family because he's going back home for the weekend. By the way he reacts, she can tell he has not even told his family what he's doing. And he's like, I'll tell them. I'll tell them this weekend. Like,
yeah.
So Doug arrives back home to his brother's bar where everyone is so happy to see him. And they think he's been away as a merchant marine.
Right. I feel like merchant marine is like the thing that people go do when they're gone for a long time inexplicably.
It's far away. So this is when he admits to his brother and in front of everyone at the bar, all the bar patrons, that he's been figure skating. And the best line, that guy in the background that goes, what? Finger painting?
Right.
His brother is disappointed. He's like, is it me? Is it something I did?
Right.
And Doug tells him, like, I like it. And it's a lot
hard.
Goddamn harder than hockey. And what we're doing is different. And
like our costumes are going to be different. The whole thing will be different.
It'll be different. And his brother's like, are they going to make you shave your legs?
Which, like, is that even a thing? Then do they cut to the costumes?
Yes, then they cut to the costume.
So I have in my notes from the original Olympic performance at the beginning, I'm like, her outfit looks like an Elizabethan clown outfit. They're so terrible. Yeah. But that, I mean, for sure, like they've come a long way in recent years.
Yeah. And I mean, these two, like, they can't agree on costumes. They can't agree on music. He wants to do something edgy with rock and roll, something different. And she wants to keep it classic.
Mozart.
In the next scene, Cate is skating and her old coach walks in. The one that she
which is so strange.
Fired. He tells her, if you wanted to become a champion, you really should have come to me. I'd hate to see you embarrass yourself at the nationals with this hockey player. She's so offended. She shouts at him, this hockey player is the best partner I've skated with. He's so good. He's going to make you cry.
That line is so funny to me. He's so good. He's going to make you cry. Like, are you 12?
Skating means something to these people, Cate. They can be moved to tears from a performance on the ice.
But you can also tell in her delivery of the line that, like, she doesn't necessarily believe that. Like, she wants the coach to believe it, but she's afraid the coach is right.
I think she's so mad because she is scared of being humiliated.
Of him being right and being humiliated. And, like, why did you get the hockey player to skate with you. That's so ridiculous.
Right. Meanwhile, Doug overhears all of this. He gets on the ice and he tells Cate, can you like take your ring off? It's cutting the hell out of my hand.
All right, because she has quite the rock on her engagement ring.
Of course she does. So we're now at the national championships. They're practicing, they're sizing up their competition when Cate spots her old partner.
Brian,
who is paired with skater Lori Pekatrovsky. And Doug meets up with Lori in the elevator, and these two hit it off. This upsets Cate.
Yes.
Cate and Hale begin arguing, and he's defending Doug getting with Lori. Cate just can't get over it, and Hale then finally puts it all together. He asks Cate, like, are you falling for Doug? And she's like, what? Are you ridiculous? Oh my God, that's the dumbest idea ever. And he's pretty sure their constant fighting is some kind of foreplay.
Right. Foreplay.
So this fight is pretty explosive. Hale decides that he's going back to London. He's not even going to stay for the Nationals.
Yeah. Hale is no fool.
He's a Harvard MBA.
Right.
At the compulsories, Doug is so nervous he barfs.
Oh my gosh, the look on that little girl, there's like a little girl figure skater, and like the look on her face is like, ew.
They place third.
Yeah.
Doug is hyped. He's like, oh my God, this was so great. Like, I wish we could go just straight into the long form. He thinks dragging out, their next routine until tomorrow is the most ridiculous thing. And he's like, it just feels like foreplay. And her face.
It's like, what?
Because Hale had just called all that fighting foreplay. The next night, we learn that Brian, Cate's old partner, and Lori, they placed well enough to go to the Olympics. So now it's down to Cate and Doug or the Wiedermans, because they only send 2 American teams to the Olympics. Cate and Doug go ahead and do the long form, and the crowd loves them.
The judges do not. They're kind of like the crowd boos the scores, and then the the people who provide commentary during events like this are talking, and they're like, well, we know that the scores don't always reflect what they're seeing out there on the ice. And the guy's like, oh, judges are known to have their favorites. So the idea is that they just don't like Doug, and probably honestly Cate, because she's probably really rude to them too.
Yeah.
But the Liederman twins? What are the Biederman twins? What's
the Wiedermans?
Like one of those. The Wiederman twins. Everyone loves them. They're just like squeaky clean and fun.
So the Wiedermans take to the ice. To Cate and Doug's surprise, they end up securing a spot to the Olympics because the girl Wiederman gets tangled up in her partner's lederhosen. Yeah.
And she falls. And so, despite the fact that the judges love them, they have no choice but to give them low scores for the fall.
Right. So Doug and Cate are headed to the Olympics. Here's a fun fact. Some of the commentators and reporters were real figure skating stars in real life. I don't know anything about figure skating, but
all I know is Nancy Kerrigan and Tonya
Harding. Yeah, same.
Oh, and then Michelle
Kwan.
Yeah, I know her too.
Yeah, me too.
That is the breadth of my ice skating
the breadth and the depth. So it is time to celebrate. Doug and Cate go to a bar. And Cate, remember, has never taken a drink in her life. So Doug decides to show her how to pound tequila shots.
Okay, so now in the pre-show discussion we had, I feel like maybe I'm the odd person out here, because I have written in my notes, how often in real life do you take tequila shots? Because in movies, it's a whole thing. And I don't know if I've ever taken a tequila shot.
Okay, so I don't really take them either, but inexplicably last night I took 2.
I was like, oh, look, I guess people do.
I'm struggling to get through this pod today, not because I don't love this film, but because I did have 2 tequila shots and 4 mimosas, a glass of rosé. I had a good time yesterday, and I'm feeling it.
And much like Cate, the morning after her outing with Doug.
Oy, yes, I drink enough. I didn't do what Cate did, though. I mean, it is this is a montage. It is a drinking, dancing montage.
Dancing, discoing montage.
I mean, it's more shots, more dancing, more shots, more dancing. Cate is plastered. Doug gives her a piggyback ride back to her room. She is giggling. She loves that she can't think right now. And she likens the two of them to magnets that just needed a little flip to attract to each other.
I wrote in my notes that she's like, I like how I feel. Like, I think so much and I think so long and I get so tired. And I was like, same friend.
Yes.
Same.
I think so much, so long. It's exhausting. Yeah. She tells Doug that her engagement is over and she throws herself at him. And Doug, I mean, he wants to be the good guy.
Right. He does the right thing.
Yes, not like this.
And you feel for him because, like, the choice that he's making is the right choice and it's the only choice that he can make. But she also feels rejected because she doesn't understand how drunk she is. And so it's just this very hard, awkward scene where, like, he likes her. And if circumstances were different, probably that night would have gone differently. But he's like, no, I can't do this. But she doesn't understand why. And she just feels rejected.
Yeah, she kicks him out. She's pissed. She calls him a prude.
Oh, the irony.
The irony. Doug continues to drink alone in his room. And this is when Lori
knocks on his door,
holding a single red rose. It is the most cliche, ridiculous thing. And she's like, oh, I thought maybe we could trade secrets. And he invites her in.
And, like, I'm not a prude, but I just never in my life have I, like, even thought to, like, knock on someone's door like that.
With a single red rose.
Well, just with, like, the very clear intent of, like, hi, I'm here to have sex with you. But I'm sure there's people who do that. I'm sure there are.
It's not so different from, like, a booty call text.
Right. But usually you have an established relationship of some sort with that person versus, like, I don't really know this person. They're knocking on the door.
Right. I'm just going to knock on the door. Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, I guess, but also back then there was no text. There was no sliding into anybody's DMs.
Mm-hmm.
So what choice did you have but to knock on their hotel room door?
Yeah. So whatever. The next morning, Cate is very hungover, much like I feel this morning.
I love when she, like, walks out of the room and is like, oh, she's got sunglasses on. Promptly realizes she has locked herself out of her room because those pesky hotel room keys, if you don't have them on you, that door just locks right behind you.
She looks chic as hell with those sunglasses. She's wearing all black.
Even hungover, she looks good.
She's a vision. Yeah. So she goes to Doug's room only to have Lori answer the door.
She's confused. She thinks she has the wrong room.
Exactly. And Doug sees her and she runs away and he's chasing after her. He's just wearing a towel. They exchange heated words about how she has been treating him like a hired hand since day one. Mm-hmm. And she's like, you rejected me. And he's like, I can't switch that quickly. Like, you've been treating me like shit this entire time. We then see Cate and Doug back on the ice at home, and they're just pissed at each other. And the coach tells them the only way they can beat this unstoppable Russian duo in the Olympics is to do this, like, very dramatic routine, unlike anything anyone has ever seen in the history of ice skating, like, ever. And he's got just the move. And this is when he places what looks like ancient sketches.
Ancient like Sanskrit.
Right. They're like weathered pieces of paper on the ice that show this move he's been working on for 20 years. And it's a bounce spin into a throw. And it's called the Pamchenko. And it's dangerous. And it's honestly impossible.
Illegal.
And possibly illegal. He's like, legal, not legal. You know, Kate's like, this is way too dangerous to perfect in only 5 weeks. And Doug is like, I can do this. Okay, I mean, sure. Like, he's not the one that's going to die.
That has to fly through the air.
Right? Like, cool story, Doug. Yeah. And Cate gets pissed at the very notion that Doug is willing to do something.
Right.
He's like, I'll do it. And she's like, I might die, but like, okay, I'll do it too, you know?
But I would rather die than have you do something that I don't.
She agrees to sacrifice her brain matter, Katie, for this
Right.
Olympic gold.
Here's the question I have about this. And I get that, like, for movie purposes, it's much more dramatic this way. But why on God's green earth? Because he doesn't move during this process. He is stationary. So let him stand on the ice. If you're worried that if he's not standing on the ice, like his balance will be different or whatever, fine. Let him stand on the ice. But put mats down for that poor
While
girl.
you practice.
While you're learning.
I mean, I don't understand the technical details, but I mean, you're right.
Because her head is so close to the ice. And as I mentioned before, ice is very hard.
Cate, we get a montage of her getting thrown onto the ice over and over. I get it. It's all about the release, Cate.
It's all about the release. She has to fly.
Her head is inches from the ice.
Right.
And this finally ends with Cate taking a particularly brutal fall onto the ice. She's just like Dunzo. D.B. Sweeney had some thoughts about the Pamchenko. Okay. He said, it breaks all the laws of physics. I mean, you can't throw something and stay still and then have it come back to you unless it is a boomerang. That's me spinning around with a mannequin. When you see the shot, it looks like Myra. And the hardest thing we dealt with was having the wig not fly off the mannequin's head. It's just too dangerous. Spinning someone around like that with their head almost hitting the ice, if you're wrong, you could kill somebody.
Yeah.
And I mean, Mental Floss did some real investigative journalism here. They wrote an article called Impossible Figure Skating Moves from the Movies. And in it says, the physics just don't compute. The centrifugal force built up during the bounce spin would launch the woman, assuming she is released at the highest point of the bounce spin, on a parabolic trajectory. I don't know what that means, but physics-wise sounds real scary and impossible.
It's like a parabola, right?
Okay.
Like an oval.
To hell with physics, Cate. We're going to the gold.
But yeah, it doesn't make sense that she would fly up into the air. Like, I could see if they made it that, like, she flew up, did the spins, and then landed gracefully. I mean, even that would be so hard to do. But no, the idea is she goes up in the air and he catches her, and it doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. It's impossible, but it's the movies. So Cate is now in her father's office with that damn empty display case that is intended to house Olympic gold. Her dad comes in. He's like, what are you doing? And she's like, why am I doing this? And he's like, well, honey, it's what you've always wanted. And I'm like, but is it?
Is it what she's always wanted?
We're now at the Winter Olympics in France. And at a press conference, Lori tells reporters that there isn't any real competition among the athletes. They're all like family. It's just really wonderful. And Kate's like, yeah, like the whole thing is simply orgasmic.
Right. And like all the press people are like, oh, that's awkward.
So at the compulsories, he wants to keep the top button of his shirt open. She wants it closed. And they are arguing about this right up until the very second that their routine begins. They are literally on the ice. And Doug says, if it was 40 below and that button meant the difference between a long, satisfying life and a horrible cold death from hypothermia, I still wouldn't give you the satisfaction.
It's a great line. And so they skate, but it's very cold.
It's cold. They skate out of anger and sexual tension and just they're pissed.
And the judges and the media, everybody watching can tell. They're like, it was correct, but it was strange.
It was strange. They said they skated like two strangers and they suggested that like it didn't look like they were having any fun.
Right. Not looking good.
A reporter asks them about their upcoming long form routine and Doug tells her, yeah, about the Pamchenko and we've got this cool move. And Cate quickly dismisses it. She's like, nope, we're pulling it. It's not ready. And Doug's like, what? So at dinner, things get really heated between Doug, Kate's dad, and the coach. Doug is just so mad that they spent all this time preparing for the Pamchenko. They're sure to win the gold with it. And, you know, her rich dad defends Kate's decision to pull it. And this is when Doug tells them that he watched the tape of Cate at the last Olympics. Her former partner wasn't the one who was at fault. It was Kate's fault.
when he has the great line of, "You said you need a go-to guy. You should have started with a go-to girl."
That's right. And that really pisses off her dad. He's like ready to kick Doug's ass for saying mean things about his precious baby girl. And this is when Cate so stoically just admits he's right. I don't like the monologue she gives here. It's very meek in her delivery. It kind of irritates me, but she basically just says, like, I wish we could go back to the beginning. Win or lose, I would still be your daughter. She apologizes to Doug and she walks away crying. Like, what did you think about this scene?
I actually really like that scene because her sort of default level is so sort of loud and shrieky that when she like finally acknowledges the truth and the reality, it's very sobering, right? She's in this just very like quiet, sort of accepting, like, he's right. He knows what he's talking about. Everything he said is true. I wish it wasn't like this. I wish it was different. And that, I think this is the area where I started thinking about like these Olympians who decided it's not worth what I've sacrificed for this, right? Like when she says like, I wish I could just be your daughter, win or lose. Like we put so much pressure on Olympians and athletes. So yeah, I like it. I think it was a good speech.
To your point about like how much they've sacrificed, she kind of makes mention of that earlier when he's like, did you go to college? And she's like, I had great tutors. Like
right.
She gave up a lot.
Right. And she doesn't really have a social group.
Exactly. And for what?
For something that she didn't love.
Right.
So
this is when we see them both pensive in the moonlight. We get a little montage of them looking sad. Did you notice that she's all wrapped up in that game jersey that he gave her?
Oh, I didn't.
She is.
Because I kind of thought, like, why doesn't she ever wear it at any point? But
she does.
I just missed it.
She does. In the morning, Cate tells Doug that after their routine, she's retiring. That's it.
Yeah. She's like all packed up. She's leaving the chateau. She's literally getting on a plane that night to go home.
Yes. So right before their routine, and this is to be Cate's final skate, the coach urges Doug and Cate to just go out there for once and enjoy each other.
Right.
And right before they're about to go on, Doug says, somewhere in the middle of this, I fell in love with you. And she's like, her eyes, this face.
Like, what?
What? And he's saying, like, I'm saying I love you, and I'm saying it out loud. And Cate is just beyond shocked, and she's like, we got to go on the ice.
What I never noticed in this scene before is, there's the official who's like trying to get them onto the ice because it's time for them to go. And when he says, I'm saying I love you, I'm saying it out loud. The official is like right between them because they're like in profile facing each other. And the look on his face is like, oh shit. I have a job to do.
I'm so going to get fired for this.
Right. Like, this is not good.
Yeah. And they're being ushered onto the ice and he pulls her back and says, don't say we're not right for each other because the way I see it, we're not right for anyone else. What do you think of that line?
Truer words never spoken.
So Doug tells everyone around them to just shut up. Like, just give me a minute. I just confessed my heart and everything. And Cate is crying and he tells her that he needs her. And this is when she says, we're doing the Pamchenko. And he's like, what? Now he's saying it's too dangerous.
Right. He's like, I didn't say all that to get a program out of you.
He's like, it's too dangerous. She's like, then we agree. We're putting it in. And they argue all the way onto the ice until they start the routine. They're arguing about it. And Cate, it's time.
Like, I love this part, though, when he's like, what difference does it make? And she's like, the difference is I'm in the mood to kick a little ass. It's like just such a great line.
It's such a great line because that was what he wanted. He wanted rock and roll. He wanted something different. He wanted to kick ass.
Yeah.
They do their routine. It's majestic. It's seductive. And it is dangerous as hell, right? We just see her.
And the crowd goes wild.
The crowd is going wild. And of course, because it's the movies and we're, an hour and 37 minutes in, they nail it. They nail the move.
No lederhosen's getting caught up here.
In the final dip, their very last move, Cate tells Doug that she loves him and they kiss.
It's so great. And then the crowd really goes wild.
And then we get credits. So we never actually find out if they won the gold, but it doesn't matter because they won.
Because they won each other. Yes.
Which, so I mean, they won the gold too. I mean, obviously, that was the move.
Right. How do you compete with that? You know, often in life, I am not a fan of like the endings with a nice big bow on them, right? Often I'm like, come on. But every once in a while, you just want a movie that has that bow that just makes you feel good inside, all warm and fuzzy. And this is it.
It hits right. And you can't help but feel good. It's not about the gold at this point. It's about being honest with each other and finally admitting your feelings and being vulnerable. Cate is never vulnerable. I mean, so in that monologue, it is the first time you really see her reckon with the truth.
Right. With all kinds of things, which as anyone who has tried to not reckon with the truth knows, it's there. It's always just waiting to rear its ugly head. You just spend a lot of energy pushing it away. And so, yeah, so she finally like settles down with it. And I mean, you know, is this movie really fluffy? Yeah, it's pretty fluffy. But it's also, I guess maybe aside from the Pamchenko, there's something believable about it. You know what I mean? And I think that is just a credit to the two actors to bring that believability into it, because I think in other hands that this could have just felt like a really kitschy kind of movie and not great.
You are rooting for them, you know, right. As unlikable as Cate is, as much of a shrew as she is through this entire thing, you still want her to find her happiness.
Right. Like, and because you recognize that she's a little bit of a victim of her circumstances and that she just hasn't gotten to experience the world. So you're like, well, I want her to like be able to like see the world the way Doug sees it. And, you know, so yeah, I think, and to kind of get away from her very upper class existence.
Yeah. And I think too, what's kind of so lovely about the story, if we break it down to the most like elemental level, I just feel like Doug had to find a new dream. And she, in turn, had to find a new dream. Yeah. And yes, she probably won the gold, but at the end of it, that didn't matter to her nearly as much as this relationship. You know, right. Doug took a huge chance. He had to really think outside the box and put a lot of work in to get to this point. And in the end, like they both won and hopefully they won the gold. But like more importantly, I don't know, it just felt so good and triumphant on every level. And it just is good. I don't know what else to say. Like for all the cheesiness, it's cheesy in all the right ways. And I love it. And of course, like the toe pick of it all.
Right.
DB Sweeney said, just after the movie came out, I remember I was running through the airport and I stumbled and 7 people yelled, toe pick. Oh, God. I thought it was nuts. I was glad that everyone saw the movie, but I didn't realize it had already immediately sort of embedded itself into the general consciousness. Toe pick.
So funny. Oh my gosh.
So good. So good. And you know, DB Sweeney, he had never skated before this film, and he really took to it. He loved it. And ever since the film, he has been skating 2 times a week. He skates once with retired NHL players in a league, which is fun. He also skates in an adult beer league. Nice. So he continues doing that to this day, and it's really fun. And of course, I mean, this movie was so good. It made so much money. They went ahead and they made 3 sequel films.
So when I went to search it out, you know, on the streaming services, those came up and I was like, what? So I let one of them play the little preview part. You know how like when you like click on it like automatically plays a little bit. And I was like, oof, that's enough to know that I don't need to watch that.
I never watched them, but what's so interesting is this movie came out in 92. The first sequel came out in 2006. The Cutting Edge Going for the Gold, 2006. And then there was The Cutting Edge Chasing the Dream, 2008. And then there was The Cutting Edge Fire and Ice, 2010. So they made one every 2 years. They made 3 of them since 2006.
It's like a reboot because the concept actually in the little bit of the preview that I saw of the first one is that the girl was a singles skater, and for some reason she has to go from being a single skater to a pair.
Okay.
Yeah. Pairs, doubles, whatever.
I don't know what it's
and called. Tennis, skating, I don't know.
Love.
And so that's the premise. And then like they find, and in this, he's not a hockey, like this is a little hard for me. He's not a hockey player. He's a skater. And I'm like, that's not the same. There's no ice involved.
So DB Sweeney said that he and Myra Kelly made a deal during The Cutting Edge that they would never do the sequels unless they both agreed to it. He said, and we stuck to that bargain. They made 3 sequels and they made it easy because they offered us like no money. And we were kind of a sideshow to the story. And I was like, well, why would we do that? That's not worth doing. So she and I both stuck to it.
Nice. Good.
Yeah. And so like I told you, they did reunite in 2006's 2 Tickets to Paradise. He said, I thought it was a fun little shout out to the people who were fans of The Cutting Edge.
I know. Now I'm like, now I want to go watch that.
Yeah. Like I think she plays his wife and she cheats on him in that movie. So it's just like a fun little opportunity for fans to be able to see them together again. And like, here's the thing. The critics, for the most part, they liked it. Like Gene Siskel said, the chemistry between the co-stars makes it work. And I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
And Roger Ebert said, I have a certain affection for movies like this. They get the job done. The Cutting Edge isn't really interested in discovering anything original about figure skating for the Olympics. It's all sports and romantic cliches. Yet the skating scenes are good to look at and the actors have chemistry.
Yeah.
It's all chemistry. You know, someone else called it like shamelessly watchable romantic schlock. And I'm like, that's cool. Romantic schlock is all right.
Yeah. I mean, this is also the same reason that I like You've Got Mail, right?
Oh,
like,
so good.
It's not a great statement on like mankind, right? It's just fun and it's Tom Hanks and it's Meg Ryan. And like,
I mean, I love them together, but I don't like a jerky Tom Hanks. I struggle with it. Like, it's not my favorite Tom Hanks.
Right. But that's what makes it so much more fun in the end.
I know. And this one, like they both have their little sharp edges. And I don't know, The Cutting Edge, it's feel good, family fun.
It is. It is just a thoroughly delightful and enjoyable movie.
Yeah.
And honestly, it is so rare that we come across a movie from that genre that ages well, where there's not something in it that makes you cringe because it's so inappropriate.
You're absolutely right. There wasn't anything thoroughly cringy or super dated. The music, as cheesy as some of it is fun. There's some original songs in this that are really good. There's a song called Turning Circles. It's just good.
It's just good. It's just, if you're ever having a really hard day and you're like, I just need something to make me feel better, boot this movie up and watch it.
The Cutting Edge.
Well, thank you all for joining us. If you're enjoying the pod, we invite you to rate and subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Yes, we really do, because, you know, getting ratings is really hard. We haven't gotten a rating in a long, long time, and we recently got a new one, and it just like made our day to know that you guys are listening and enjoying it. It means a lot, and it helps super cool people like you find the pod. So please do that. It means a whole bunch. And if you guys want to connect, you can find us on the socials. We're at the untitledgenxpodcast.com. We love talking with you. And as always, we hope you keep in touch, beautiful people. Don't pick.